solving inequalities. Inequalities have these signs. Equations have equal signs. That sign is called greater than. And what's the one underneath it? Less than. So, the ones next to it. Ladies, what's the difference between this and that greater than? This is a mixture, good, I hear people saying it, between an equal sign and a greater than sign. It's called greater than, oops, I can't spell, or equal to, greater than or equal to. And so this one would be a less than or equal to. So you have a greater than or equal to or a less than or equal to. A lot of times people have struggles remembering which one's which. Here's one of the best ways to know which one's which. Is that the less than sign?
Yeah.
Isn't it pointing to the lesser side of the number line? Isn't that a greater than sign? Isn't it pointing to the greater side of a number line? That's one way to remember. The other way, doesn't the less than sign look like an L? The less than sign looks like the L. Okay. Also, doesn't this look like the end of the G? You take the G, capital G, and wrap it around. Kind of looks like the end of the G. Whatever. There, you got to find your way to remember. People mess up sometimes. Just don't. Okay. Think of the number line. Think of the L for less than, whatever. Okay. You have to deal with inequalities. Now, why do I have this word golden rule? It's not really called the golden rule, but I'm calling it that right here. When you're solving with inequalities, there's one thing you have to keep in mind. You do it just like you were solving an equation, except for one little thing. Does anybody remember it? Yes?
Like when you divide the thing switches?
Yeah. Okay. If you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, then what's going to happen? It's a conditional statement. If when you're solving, you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, what happens? Yes. Then the sign switches, or some people say flips. Flips, switches, however you want to say it. So if when you're solving you multiply both sides by a negative, the sign flips. It's a very important thing to keep track of. So that means it doesn't always, but sometimes it will. So we solve this just like an equal sign. That's what makes it so easy. Okay? So basically we just add the 5 over. Woohoo! 3x is greater than or equal to 12. Okay. Then we divide by what? Divide by 3. There's my answer. Oh, was I supposed to flip the sign? No, because I did not divide or multiply by negative. But there will be problems, and on your homework, where you have to put this on a number line. I'm not worried about it being perfect. There's my number line. I put 0 to reference the middle. Which side of 0 would 4 be on? The right. So, put a little line. That's 4. So I put a dot at 4. Now, which side of that dot is going to be shaded? It says greater than or equal to 4. Which side's greater? Isn't this side greater?
Yep.
Don't you follow the arrow? You see the arrow? See the arrow points to where you're going? Going to the right. Oh, thank you for the directions there. I appreciate that. Now, the one thing you have to worry about is 4 part of your answer? Does that say greater than or equal to 4? Or just greater than 4? It says greater than or equal to. So 4 is actually part of your answer. So how would I represent 4 being part of the answer?
Shade.
You've shaded in. If 4 was not part of your answer, do you understand you would leave it open? You'll see more of that. Number 2. Let's solve it. First step, I like to move on inequalities. I always like my x's on the left. Very important because it's kind of hard to read it backwards. So the first step, move that over. Negative 5x minus 8 is greater than or equal to 1. Now, to get the x by itself, I add the 8 over. We good so far? Hopefully. Divide by negative 5. So my answer, that's negative 9 over 5. Does it matter what side the negative's on? If one of them's negative, isn't the answer negative?
Yeah.
So that negative be on top, bottom, or right in the middle, wherever you want. But did my sign flip?
Yes.
I divided both sides by negative. I did the golden rule. There's my answer. And then we're going to make a little graph of it. Negative 9/5 is negative 1.8. Don't worry about exactly where it is. Just put negative 9/5. You know it's on the negative side. Open or close circle? Close, because it's or equal to, so that's part of the answer. And which direction does this arrow tell me to go? Left. What these graphs are saying, it's a picture. A graph is a picture of this answer. This is saying x is less than or equal to negative 9/5. So any value smaller than 9/5 works. That's what this graph says. Any number on this number line lower than 9/5 works. It's a picture of the answer. A lot of times, most of you would like pictures. Pictures are sometimes easier to represent and to understand. So, going back up to here, do you understand these are going to be open circles? Is that okay? And what are these going to be? These are open circles because there's no line underneath. These are going to be closed circles. Closed circles look like that. Open circles.